Tipp Today, in association with Slattery's of Pecan, your main Peugeot dealer for over 50 years in the Premier County. Slattery'sGarage.ie.
Good morning, welcome along to Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. That's our free phone number. Won't cost you if you'd like to make a call to us. And Ali is producing today. Coming up on the show this morning, we'll be speaking to Michael Lowry in just a few moments' time. A call for the Irish Prison Service to end temporary release for violent criminals. Movember, raising awareness of men's health issues. Eimear Ni Bhronain's new book detailing the extraordinary fall from grace of Kilkenny hurling star DJ Carey. Big announcement from Cara Darmody this morning. I'll speak to my old friend, songwriter Brendan Graham. And from hairdressing to dairy farming, we will hear Katie Gleeson's story as well. So all of that and more on the way. You can text and WhatsApp 083 311 3311. You can email tiptoday at tippfm.com. Our prize as well in association with Carrickdon. And they're highlighting the opening of their brand new store in the heart of Clonmel. Ultimate destination, I'm told, for jewellery, gifts, homewares, and of course their wonderful Christmas shop as well. We've got a €50 Carrickdon gift card to give away a little later on this morning, so do listen out for your cue to call where that is concerned. We'll do that a little later on in the show. Let's have a look at the front pages of your newspapers, and of course it's Wednesday, so the local papers are on your shelves. The Nina Guardian, their lead story, 2 deaths on local roads, and the Minister says that families are suffering unimaginable heartache. The Tipperary Star, terrifying is their headline there. Fire rips through super value in the heart of Ross Gray. Investigation into the blaze that tore through the popular supermarket landmark, of course, Bernie Super Value there in Ross Gray, and closed until further notice. The Nationalist is dominated by a photograph of mother Rachel Reid along with her son Grayson, and the headline there is no amount of money can ever make right what has been taken from him. This was done to him. Failings in the hospitals caused this, and the HSE made life difficult and kept putting up barriers. That's the Nationals. Let's go to the national papers. The Examiner, first of all, and right across the newspapers today, images from Catherine Connolly's inauguration as the 10th President of Ireland yesterday. Also on the Examiner today, 2 in 5 online gamblers have more than one account, while 10% bet while they're at work, Ireland's gambling regulator has said. Also on the Examiner, we are reading that the number of homes available to rent across the country has more than halved when compared to pre-pandemic levels, as the cost of renting continues to surge. The Irish Times, again dominated by a photograph of Catherine Connolly surrounded by all of the great and good in Dublin Castle yesterday. And Miriam Lord telling us that with the declaration of office before her in Dublin Castle and a rapt audience looking on, Catherine Connolly took the gleaming silver pen in her hand and prepared to sign in the silent grandeur of St. Patrick's Hall. She touched it to the parchment. And the Irish Independent, and once again dominated by a photograph of President Connolly from yesterday, and their headline is a simple one: I have never believed more in the spirit of this country. The Irish Daily Mail, and again reference to Catherine Connolly on the front of the Mail, and the line they took from yesterday: the people have used their voices to shape a country we can be very proud of. The lead story on the Mail today: the government is to introduce tough new emergency legislation to bulldoze through bureaucracy and fight planning objections, the Irish Daily Mail has been told. So that's a look at what's making headlines. If you'd like to make comment on any of that, we'd be glad to hear from you. 083 311 3311. Now, the long-awaited and badly needed Thurles bypass is back on the government agenda. The project, as you know, had fallen off the agenda during the economic crash, despite significant design work already having been carried out. Tipperary Independent TD Michael Lowry joins me now. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning, Fran.
And good to talk to you today. What is the story? What is the latest on the bypass, Michael?
Well, for the bypass is now put back into the National Development Plan. It will be included in the National Development Plan, which will be announced shortly. And the element of that plan will say that Thurles bypass will be funded to advance through the various approval stages, including design and planning, and be ready for construction by 2030. Now, that's obviously something hugely important. It's probably one of the reasons why I support successive governments, put myself in a position to deliver for the people who elect me. And when this government was formed and subsequent to it being formed, I made the provision of a bypass for Thurles my top priority. It has, Fran, been, as you know, debated and discussed for many years. I had previously made this a priority in a previous government, and at that stage it was advanced to the stage where even the preferred route had been selected. But unfortunately the crash came, and that project and many other national projects were scrapped because of the economic crash. So now it's 16 years later, and I'm delighted once again to be in a position to make the project a priority within the lifetime of this government.
I spoke to Deputy Ryan O'Mara recently, and we were talking about the inner relief road, and obviously I brought up the bypass with him at that particular time, but he had no indication that this was imminent in any way, Michael. Has this very recently come to the fore?
Well, no, we have been in discussions with what happened, Fran. The way it operates is that all of the departments got their budget, what they call as the sectoral department. So each particular sector, each department then has to define how they're going to spend that money and publish a 5-year plan. So I've been working closely with the department officials, and obviously with political heads in the department to ensure that the bypass was included in it. And, a bypass for Thurles has long been recognised by local business people, by local public representatives, by the local authority and by the community in general as the key to unlocking the town's true economic potential. So we've been working to that ambition. There was a huge volume of work done and research and planning done prior to 2009. And unfortunately, I've been told by the officials and by the engineers that much of that data is now redundant and will have to be revisited. So my job now is to ensure and pursue and insist that the project advances through the various procedural stages. And I'll be looking forward to tangible progress to ensure that it is ready for construction in 2030. That's the commitment that we'll be giving in that plan.
Why are those plans redundant, Michael? Is it because the town has evolved since then? Is that the way it is?
Yes, it's 16 years ago. Traffic patterns have changed. If you look at it, we've had a growth in population. We have an increase in traffic flow. Nearly everyone has 2 cars now. But I think there won't be a big deviation from the preferred route that was selected. But obviously all of the work to underpin and justify the expenditure on a bypass will have to be redone. So there is a lot of work to be revisited, but essentially that we have a fair idea of what was in place. We know what was in place. The data is still there, and that will have to be worked on. But obviously, it's a bypass for Thurles is essential to alleviating the chronic traffic congestion in Thurles, particularly heavy goods vehicles passing through Liberty Square, where you have the 2 national secondary routes converging. So it's a long-standing issue. It has affected the town for generations, and I'm pleased that the work that I have invested a lot of time and effort in is now yielding real results. And everyone will tell you that the bypass will be transformative in removing congestion from the streets and breathing new life back into the town centre. And obviously, we constantly hear elderly people, particularly people with disabilities, that safety is an issue. So safety must come first. So taking the heavy vehicles out of the town centre will make Thurles a safer, a more vibrant place, a place to live, to work, to shop and to do business.
We've come... I beg your pardon, Michael, yes.
That comes, Fran, in conjunction and in association with the inner relief road.
Yes, I was just going to ask you about that. How both will fit together?
The both will fit together. We already have. I was involved many years ago in securing the funding for the Jimmy Dial relief road. So this other inner relief road will also happen. So the inner relief road will link the N62 Schliebnerman Road at Clongower Junction near Lidl to a new priority junction on the Middle Road. And that involves over 1 kilometre of new roadway, which will include a 50-metre tide arch bridge spanning the River Suir. Now, the facts on this, Fran, are that this inner relief project has been announced on multiple occasions, including by myself, and people are wondering why has there been such delays. Well, the reason was that it encounters significant delays due to complex legal issues and also because of the final determination on the values of the land to be purchased. And the landowner approached both Councillor Michael Lowry and myself, and we were central in the liaison between the landowners and the council to bring these matters to a successful conclusion. So immediately the lands came into the land. Unfortunately, the council couldn't do anything about the design of the road until they had possession of the lands. So as soon as the lands came into the possession of the council, we secured approval from the department and the appointment of a design team. And that design work is ongoing. And I've received a commitment that will be fully funded. You're talking about a new bridge, you're talking about a kilometre of new road, so you're looking at in the region of 12 to 15 million euro, but that will also be in the plan for the next 5 years, will be executed and delivered as quickly as possible.
And my understanding is that the relief road could be up and running within 2 years, and you're talking about the bypass within the lifetime of this government. Do you mean the actual bypass to be up and running and we're able to drive on it within?
No, there's a lot of stages on a bypass that you have to go through.
That's what I thought. So what is within the lifetime of this government then, Michael?
Well, it'll be funded to advance through the various approval stages. There's a significant amount of funds required to do the research, to do the development of the plan, to design the plan, and to bring it through the stages that are required before you can justify the expenditure on it. So all of that work will be funded and ready and brought to planning, and then all that should be completed before 2030, so that by 2030 you're ready to go for a construction phase, which means tender.
Right, so we're really talking, so a construction phase or something like this, we're talking about 5 years, I suppose. So we're talking about 10 years' time, are we, that we would be able to drive on this?
No, I would think it'd be much sooner than that. The critical, I suppose, part of it is the design and planning, and that's what takes the time, Fran. That's where the stretch of time is. There's a lead in time to every big project. So what I have ensured is that funding, first of all, that it's going to be a project that's in the plan. Secondly, that it's going to be advanced, that the funding will be there to advance it, that the various stages will be completed, and that it will be ready to go for tender for construction by 2030. Now, that's a very ambitious project. It's a big project, and obviously it will have to be scrutinised and followed right way through those stages, and that'll be my job to oversee to make sure that it happens.
Can I just talk to you about some other good news for Thurles, which was the gift from John Bagner from Coolmore of the 14 acres for Tipperary GAA. That was fantastic news, wasn't it?
Yes, and it was an exceptionally generous donation, and that donation will pave the way for the creation of a new state-of-the-art Tipperary GAA Centre of Excellence at Coolmore Park. I've obviously been involved in the GAA all my life, and I see this as a new opportunity, a new beginning, a new era. It'll be building on the proud and long tradition we have for GAA games in Tipperary. It will allow that tradition to blossom and to bloom within modern facilities, and the modern facilities is the important part going forward. And it will bring that old established tradition to future generations in a modern setting. So it's a huge breakthrough for the county board. They have put in a huge amount of work into the executive of the county board. PJ Flanagan is heading up the fiscal council, which will be raising the funds. They have already received huge commitments and pledges. So it's a project that's going to happen, and it will make a huge difference going forward for Tipperary.
You've been involved in fundraising for the GAA for a long, long time now. They really will have to come up with a lot of money for this, though.
Well, it's around a 12 million development. But we're very heartened and encouraged. BJ Flanagan has reported on the efforts that have commenced already at fundraising. He's received a fantastic response, a very generous response, and already I can say that multiple millions have been committed to this project. So, look, it's all the piecework is in place, and it's a project that's ambitious, it's needed. It's a project that will deliver results for Tipperary, particularly for nurturing, young hurlers and footballers, and ensuring that our talent get the best possible opportunity to show the talents that they have.
And just before I let you go, we have a brand new president. It's all over now at this point. When you look back at this particular presidential campaign and all the trials and tribulations around, what do you make of it at this remove, Michael?
Well, first of all, I congratulate Catherine Connolly on becoming president. She ran an excellent campaign. People identified with her. They liked her approach. They liked her calmness. They liked her strength in terms of sticking to her values and the principles that she has. I think she'll be a good president. All our presidents, for the past 9 presidents, all served the country with distinction, and I'm sure Catherine Connolly will serve as well, as I said, at home and abroad. I think the difference was with Catherine's campaign started very early. She was out there, she got the message across, she got to meet people. She just ran, in politics, if you're going for something, your campaign is all important. And you have to have a vision, you have to have a clear understanding, and you have to communicate that to the public as to what you want to deliver in the role that you're looking for, in this case, President Connolly.
Any concerns about how political her inauguration speech was yesterday?
Well, look, there's the President has limited powers, and I'm sure the President will be expressing views on many issues. Michael D. Higgins started to do that, in particular in the last 5 years of his presidency. The Taoiseach will be meeting of the day, whether it's just Micheál Martin or in 10 years' time or 5 years' time, whatever Taoiseach we'll have, meets regularly with the President, gives an outline of what government policy is. And normally presidents, in accordance with the Constitution, will leave the policy making to government and have their own personal views that they can espouse at the appropriate times.
All right, Michael, good to talk to you today, and thanks for your time. Thank you. Good morning to you. That's Independent Deputy Michael Lowry speaking to us there. 1800 938 007. The text and WhatsApp is 083 311 3311. Lots coming into us, and I'll bring it to you in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Fianna Fáil Ireland South MEP Cynthia Ni Murchu has called on the Irish Prison Service to end temporary release for violent criminals. She joins me online now. Cynthia, good morning to you.
Fran, more with your imagine. Good to speak with you.
And good to speak with you as well, Cynthia. I think people will be shocked to realise that violent criminals are being temporarily released.
Yes, I certainly was shocked at the level and extent of them. Out of the cohort of people that I got some data from the Irish Prison Service for the 23rd of June 2025, so what I did was I got an overall figure for the total number of prisoners on temporary release for that date this year in June, and it was 558 in total, men and women. But I was very interested, Fran, to look at the serious crimes at the top of the scale, so to speak, because what I did was I got a number of different type offences, different categories of offences. But the top one was attempted murder, threatened murder, assault, harassment, very violent. And there was a total of 45 persons on temporary release just on that day. So 45 out of that cohort of 558 to me was alarming. And when I looked at the next serious set of categories after attempted murder and threatened murder, which was the likes of dangerous or negligent acts, robbery, extortion, hijacking offences, burglary and related offences, so they were the different categories. It actually, the total amount on temporary release on that day made up about 25% of the overall. That is very high. To me, that was shocking. To me, that suggested that there was a custom and practice or practice and procedure within the prison service and the executive and those governors who were running the prisons, if they're still called governors, possibly not, but that there was a routine practice and procedure to afford temporary release across the board. And I was calling for specific measures to be brought in to look at serious criminals, violent criminals, and to end temporary release for those.
Have you found out what the criteria is for release? What do they have to prove to the governor or the administrator?
Unfortunately, I haven't, Fran. I didn't get that data. I didn't get that specific. I didn't ask that specific question, but I think that'll be step 2 on foot of this. Because if the criteria is not first and foremost who are the violent criminals amongst the list of people for temporary release, well then the practice and procedure has to be rewritten, and the conditionality of releasing people on a temporary basis has got to be looked at very seriously, because let's call a spade a spade. We're talking about victims here, and we are talking about the rights of victims, and I appreciate prisoners have rights too. Appreciate that fully, and they're entitled to be safe and secure in prison and to be treated with human dignity. But I need to say very unashamedly that I prefer to see a violent criminal on a mattress for a short-term period in a prison cell, in a prison, rather than being released back into the community that they've already offended against. And of course, I mentioned the word community, Fran, because it's not just the victim, it's the victim's family and the victim's community.
Of course. And have we any indication, or is there any data that would lead us to believe that when these violent criminals are on temporary relief, do they perform other criminal acts? Are they out there?
Yes, there is data analysis and research in relation to that. I cannot match that to the actual date that I got it for. So unfortunately, my argument, so to speak, is not completely rounded, and it's not a closed argument to say to you that out of those 45 people that were on temporary release for and guilty of threatened murder and attempted to murder, that they then reoffended. And unfortunately, I couldn't get also an answer to the question, because they don't have the data. So I do know the prison service reverted to me and said they don't have the data for this issue, and that was time served by a prisoner versus the sentence. So I wanted to know if you were sentenced for attempted or threatened murder, or if you were sentenced for something such as theft and related offences, what exact time was served. I was trying to get hold of those, but I was told that the prison service don't hold the records to that. So it seems that no one is monitoring the sentences that are handed down versus the time that's actually served in prison.
Which is very worrying indeed. Of course, Irish prison overcrowding, a crisis level indeed, at this point of 2025. And that has to be addressed as well, hasn't it?
Yes, it does, Fran. You're quite right. Prison numbers continue to grow. We're hearing about it on the airwaves all the time and reading about it. It's due to increased population, increased court sittings, and increased level of detection by An Garda Síochána, who do a great job. I want to compliment, however, the Minister for Justice, Jim O'Callaghan, who has taken a very robust approach to this aspect of his department, his brief. So he is taking a 2-pronged approach to this issue of capacity that you've highlighted, Fran. So number one, he's increasing prison capacity across all prisons in the country as we speak, in numbers of 50, 100, 150. So they're existing prisons. And then, of course, he is also seeking to, I'll talk about the capital project of Thornton Hall in a second.
Yes.
There's a huge amount of money achieved for that. But the second prong of the approach I spoke about, which is increasing capacity now in existing prisons, the second prong is further measures to support and promote non-custodial sentence. In other words, keep them out of prison. Now, this is a no-brainer. I mean, we hear so much about community service, but I'm not too sure that we actually see it in practice. I'm not too sure, Fran, that I've actually seen it, even in all my years as a barrister. So we should be investing more in community service and community-based sanctions for non-violent crimes. at the lower end of the scale. And just to say to you, on the table and the scale of offences that I got data for, there's quite a number of people who are on temporary release in relation to damage to property and the environment. I'm not saying now that that's at the lower end, but it is something which is less serious than threatened murder. But there's quite a number on that date in June that were on temporary release for damage to property and environment, for public order, for road and traffic offences. There was a whopping 76 on temporary release in relation to that, which means that they had come into the system and clogged it up for road and traffic offences. Now, some of those can be very serious, especially those offences leading to death or fatality or indeed an injury, a serious injury. But, you know, we need to look at non-custodial sentences, and that is the community service.
Yeah, because if we're to learn anything from our friends across in the UK, you can't build your way out of this. It's not quite as simple as building other prisons. Would you go along with that?
Oh, yeah, no, we can't magic it up. Now, there's been an awful lot of talk about Thornton Hall, and even before I was an MEP, Fran, you've probably been talking about Thornton Hall in North County Dublin for many years. Yeah. Unfortunately, we had several matters that intervened between the crash and, of course, COVID. But now I'm glad to say, and I did want to mention this and thank you, that Minister O'Callaghan has secured government approval. He secured it in June to accelerate not only the delivery of the 960 new prison places that I spoke about, but also and that was through an exemption now of the infrastructure guidelines, because, you know, we really have to cut through a lot of the objections at this stage, Fran, because this is an urgent matter, and that cutting through that infrastructure guideline will speed up the delivery of these places, prison places, by 12 to 18 months. That's very important. But, sorry, the big piece then was a huge sum of money, a capital investment for Thornton Hall, and to build a prison, to create over 1,500 new spaces.
Right, so that's in the works. You were talking about data there and maybe the lack of availability. Holly Cairns got a fair bit of flack from her Late Show appearance on Friday night. I'm not sure if you were across that, but some of the data and the stats that she put out there was questionable, to say the least. Do we need more data, particularly on where people coming into the country are concerned and crimes committed? Do we need that to be made available?
I'm not against data in respect of any question once it's a valid question. Now, you've posed it in the context of crimes committed with, you're talking about applicants for safety, for security, IPAS, you're talking about immigrants, you're talking about all of those. I'm absolutely unsupportive of the so-called conspiracy theorists and suggesting that crime is committed more by the likes of those coming to our shores than by Irish people. In fact, I spoke recently to Junior Minister in the Department, Colin Brophy, Fine Gael Minister, about this, because he gave us a briefing about these numbers. And I think the percentage of crimes committed, I think the percentage he quoted to me, because I asked him, and all the MEPs were very interested in this, was less than 3%. Now, I may be correct on that, but it was definitely less than 5%. And I believe it was less than 3%. So unfortunately, you know yourself, Fran, there's an awful lot of misinformation and disinformation by people who are unfortunately not only biased, but they're very far out on the far right. And I'm seeing it every day in Europe, because there's 1/3 of the parliament made up of far-right wing politicians, legitimately elected, but we're talking about the likes of MEPs from Hungary under the so-called directorship or leadership of Orbán, who is against all forms of minorities and migrants and so forth. So, look, I always caution about raising this issue in the context of a conversation like this. However, in general terms, data is vital, especially, Fran, when it comes to the taxpayer, you, me, and everybody
absolutely,
listening.
But I'm kind of surprised. I'm surprised that you got a percentage from the minister, because my understanding was that this data was not available because it's not being collated. So that's interesting.
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, if you want to follow through, I'll get my office actually to get onto your producer and to give the facts and figures, because we were very anxious to find out about this number, because I'll tell you why. The Migration Pact within the European Parliament ecosystem, as in the Commission, and the European Pact that we all learned about last year and that came on stream and was voted in by the 25 member states, that's going to be finalised mid-next year, and that will coincide with Ireland's presidency of the EU Council. So I'm getting up to speed on all of this data, and I'm looking for more data in relation to this, because I want to be very clear with listeners and with voters about what exactly is the stance of Fianna Fáil in relation to migration. And we've had a troubled history, not just with the stance of Fianna Fáil, but in general, we've had a troubled history with communications on migrants and migration.
But there is that perception now, Cynthia, that both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are doing a bit of a U-turn, and that U-turn is probably based on the result of the presidential election and the spoiled vote.
Yes. Now, in fairness, and sorry, my counter-argument to that is, and I know that perception's out there, I read the papers like everyone else, and I talk to people in Carlow on the streets, and ordinary people talking about these things, and it does come up regularly. But the turnaround in relation to the figures, first of all, there was a massive drop of figures. I mean, there was far, far less coming to our shores, but that happened way before the presidential election. And in fact, it happened quite soon after I got elected, because I remember distinctly when I was canvassing in May and April and March of 2024 in the run-up to the June elections, this was rife. The conversation was rife about this issue. But I went canvassing again then for the national elections, for the general election in November, and the numbers had dropped so much that it was not coming up on the streets, nor the doorsteps, nor the shopping centres. So we need to, now, when you say there's been a turnaround, what has happened is because of the drop of numbers and because of the pressure that we've seen, and we've all seen it, in relation to our resources, whether it's doctors, whether it's schools, whether it's all the services that the new communities and the migrants need. Obviously, we cannot continue with the system that we had, and it has been made far more robust, fair but equitable, but far more robust, and also the streamlining of procedures to interview people and to get a decision for them when they apply.
But what's annoying some of our listeners, though, is that if people said what you've just said to me a year ago, they'd be branded as racist and far right and not tolerant and not inclusive and not diverse and all of those things,
Yes, it's very unfortunate, Fran. It's very unfortunate that the communications around this topic have not been delivered in a coherent, logical, sensitive, caring way. So can I just say, as an Irish person, I hope as an Irish public figure or a public servant and somebody who's elected in elected office, that I show the amount of care that was shown to all of our citizens when we emigrated to the US and to England, to London, over the decades and over the centuries. But what we have to do is we have to make sure that it is a European-wide handled and legislated operation. And the reason we have to do that, Fran, is because obviously migration is a huge issue now with an awful lot of reasons for that. And everybody knows them. I mean, I don't need to pontificate about it. But obviously we've climate change. Obviously we've wars. Obviously we've all of that kind of persecution of minorities. But we have to do this on a Europe-wide basis, and that takes a new system and a new framework, and that's what's going to be effectively finalised midterm next year. But it's very important that people understand the message, because unfortunately the topic has been hijacked, as you know, by the far right. And as a result, we have seen the frenzy of activity, whether it's the disgusting and illegal act of burning a building in Drogheda, or whether it's the riots that we've seen at City West. And I could go back and cite all the other instances of arson and obviously of people being attacked and public disorder. So I hope I can be a voice for this, to be quite honest with you, Fran, because I'm on a committee that comes under the remit of the Commissioner McGrath, which is called the Democracy Shield. And the Democracy Shield is about protecting democracy. And people in Ireland are very comfortable with democracy because we have it. We're very lucky. We just saw democracy in action for the election of Uachtarán Catherine Connolly and Cohortachas O'Cree, the Catherine and Uachtarán Nua. I just want to say congratulations to her. But it's really important that we realise that our democracy is actually under threat.
All right, Cynthia, I'm sure we'll be speaking about this again in the future. But in the meantime, thanks for your time this morning. Go real about it. Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. You know, that's Cynthia Ni Murchu. Back in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, It matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1-800-938-007.
Now, if you're wondering why you're seeing more facial hair than normal this month, don't forget we're bang in the middle of Movember. It's an annual event now where the men of Ireland try their best to grow some kind of a moustache, indeed, in an effort to raise awareness and fundraise for cancer charities. Now, to talk to me about this, delighted to be joined in the studio by our good friend Joe Leahy, and Tipp referee Brian Tyrrell is with me as well. Good morning to you both. And
Good morning, Fran.
Thanks for coming into us. Joe, will you set the scene for me? Movember?
Yeah, sure. We threw it out there. We did it a few years ago. We threw it out there again this year that we do it for mental health. So Brian came on board and myself, we said we'd raise our hands and we'd go along and we'd do it. It's really to raise awareness, Fran, and get young people, especially, I suppose, out there. Not that I'm in the young category, but get a few people out there, get them involved, let them know what Seesaw is about, and let them know as well with cancer awareness, and, get themselves checked, go to their doctors, try to do the right thing. Literally, and without being morbid, it's an awareness aspect of it,
I suppose. And Brian, I mean, you're in the thick of dealing with young people and young men and all of that. Whereas men are so slow to go about.
Very much so, Fran. It's something that we're very slow to do, to react to anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like if you have a cough or a cold, most people will go to a doctor, but we're very slow, and even getting our own health checked out, we are slow to do that, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Why did you get involved with Seesaw, Brian?
I suppose I lost my dad through a tragedy 30 years ago. It was something that I always wanted to get involved, kind of give a bit of time back to it, because now mental health is such a big thing, because we've so much thing out, everything's out there now. There's so much out in our with the phones and everything like that, so people are always out to judge people, and I suppose that's what my prime was to get involved and because we as men, and the three of us are here, are very, very slow to talk about things, and mental health is something that's very slow we're talking about.
Absolutely. And did you avoid talking about your dad and that situation? I would
have had over the years, and look, recently in the past I would have got a bit of more counselling, to be honest with you. So yeah, it does help. It does help by talking. It's even now, like it's still, look, unfortunately, losing a parent or losing anyone through suicide is hard. You deal with it, but it's also you need a place to go and talk about it as well, and that's where we come into play with Seesaw, because with all our different forums that's available, and it's so important that people talk.
Yeah, and Joe, I mean, you've been telling us about this for a long, long time. Just that notion of somebody to talk to, just a listening ear.
Yeah, the listening ear. And I think, while we all talk about, I suppose, the common thing is, I suppose the common phraseology, as Brian has mentioned, is take time to talk. That's our logo, that's our motto. But we also then, like in Seesaw, we listen, because you have to listen. And the confidentiality of it all, like we're all guarded about it. You need, as are other organisations like us, and you need to listen. You need to be listened. But so when a person comes to you with an issue, you need to stop and listen. And that's not always easy to do, because everyone is living at 100 miles an hour now. They all have, I'm too busy to do anything job idea. But at the end of the day, you have to stop, because that's the most important thing on their mind. And this time of the year, we were talking about it there coming in the car, Brian and myself were just saying, look at yesterday, the name of the Lord God, like sure, it would drive you insane, like yesterday with the weather we had, and and people overthink, and you have the long dark evenings, and there's nowhere to go. People don't go for a walk. People don't go to matches because they're not on. So you're stuck on the telly, you're stuck on the phone, and that all leads to depressing old stuff. You know what I mean? And instead, people worried then about Christmas. How will they get through it? Worried about everything else. So you need to take time out and come and have a chat.
When I knew you were coming on this morning, it dawned on me the amount of people that have gone through Seesaw since you set it up, Joe. If Seesaw didn't exist, where would those people have gone?
I suppose, Fran, that's a very difficult question to ask. Like I suppose what we don't do, we always look after the next one. Like we don't kind of do the numbers. I suppose one of the frightening things, we keep a record of what we do. Last year we had 2 people in 2024. Dare I say, we had 2 people in over 80 years of age to us. And I think that has answered your question. It says, where would those people go? They have no one to talk to. They wouldn't be people now like that'd be going online, like we'll say, to the Samaritans or anything like that. But there's a massive amount of loneliness out there, and I wouldn't even like to think where they'd go, like there's nowhere for a lot of people to go. And the system that we have in the country, like we always criticise the system, but we really have, our system is designed on a 9 to 5. After that, it's called an emergency. Everything else is 9 to 5. And what's 9 to 5? probably 10 to 4 really, and after that then you're really on your own, and you absolutely are. And if you don't have family and friends, and when you ring the friend, if the friend can't cop on to what you're saying, cop on to the fact that you rang and don't realise that you're reaching out to them, well then you're in bigger trouble, because it's harder to ring the second friend, you know what I mean?
Brian, sport can be a great support itself, can it not? That camaraderie and
look, we've had an incident in Clonmel 3 weeks ago. Unfortunately, we lost Billy Ryan, and the club got around all the young lads. We were successful last Sunday or Saturday, winning the county championship, and everyone embraced each other, and also the club brought everyone together as well. And look, it's hopefully the lads will go a step further again this weekend with the Finbars on Philly is dead a month next Saturday. So it's a thing. It's sport is brilliant for young people. The camaraderie as you said there, plus as well as that, it's everyone looks out for each other as well, to be honest with you.
And what about, on this programme, I have to hold my hand up here, young people get an awful lot of flack at times for everything from antisocial behaviour to drugs, to drink, to all sorts of behaviour. The young people that you're seeing, Brian, and in refereeing and in the clubs and all of that, what are you seeing out there? Are they struggling? Is it more difficult to be a young person? And
I think it is. It's because everything is in your face now, and everyone is judgmental with everything, with social media and all that. Years ago, when I was a lot younger, and I hit 50 this year, when I was growing up, when I was 20, there was no such thing as phones or anything like that, and everyone enjoyed themselves as well. But now I think there's definitely I'm afraid of what's coming down the road in the next 20 years with people, because 20 years ago you could go to a pub and have a sociable drink. Now we're kind of going to a pub now to get drunk, and drunk as fast as we can, or then you have the drug scene and you have other things like that. But from a field point of view, from dealing with young lads on the field, I must say I've the amount of respect that I get off those kids, and I must say they're 100% they're exemplary. And I would meet them socially then after that, and I have to say there's never any issue with them. So there is for the 99% good lads, there's only 1% bad egg, if you want to call it that way.
We spoke about some of the people, as you say, in their 80s coming to Seesaw, but the young people, Joe, and again you've spoken to me about this in the past. Do you have the same fears as Brian has for the next?
I would. I think there's fierce pressure on young people now, you know what I mean? And I think it really starts, we're gone out of the exam season now the past couple of months, but these point system and the exams, and how many points did you get, Fran? You got 469, well I got 470. God almighty, there's a job there for everyone if you want to get the job. There's apprenticeships there for everybody if you want to go down that road. There's a future for everybody if they want to do all those things. But the pressure that's on us from the word go, from the kick-off, and it's the same thing as Brian had said. People want to get high in an instant. Everything has to happen now in an instant. And you'd rarely see now, if you're going out there, years ago you see two men especially leaning in over the gate of a Sunday having a chat about, they're a rarity now. They're like hen's teeth. They're so scarce, And I think all that thing leads to more pressure and pressure and pressure. And thankfully, we see more young people now contacting us. And the best thing about us is that they will contact us. We don't want to be quiet. We want people to be contacting us, and we want to be busy. That's what we want. And it's totally non-judgmental. All we want is your first name and your mobile number, and we'll get our counsellors on to you then, and they'll contact you. And we're step out of the equation. We're only just like a signpost,
And in terms of Movember, then, if people want to help with the fundraising, Joe, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can get a card from any of us, or they can donate there to Brian, Thurles, or myself, either one of the two of us, and give us a few bob or leave it into Seesaw House. We'll only gladly. We'll take a lot more money in that we'll grow the moustache. Will take a while. We'll have to go for 10, 20 or something, Fran, but we'll get there.
I think we'll hold on to it, Joe, for until December anyway.
You're looking very dashing, lads, for sure. Brian, I have to ask you before you go, how in the name of God do you stay refereeing and stuff? Because I know you still are, but it's the most thankless, difficult job. I don't know how anybody could be a referee.
Fran, I love it. I'm doing it for the guts of 30 years.
You said that to me off here.
I love it.
And the abuse,
to be honest, and people, there'll be people laughing when they hear this in the radio. The tougher the match, the more I enjoy it.
Are you serious?
Absolutely, I love it.
But they call you names.
I don't care, friend. I still enjoy it, because at the end of the day, I can walk in Clonmel and there's no one following me up the street, and people kind of, because I wear contact lenses or whatever, people will kind of look at you in a different light then when you're away from the field. But no, I have to say, as I said earlier, I love it. I really, really enjoy it. Like I said, 20. I'll just give you a simple example before we go. 23 years ago, I was 27 years of age. I refereed the Munster Club final.
Yeah.
Nemo Rangers and Monaleen. A couple of weeks ago, I did Nemo in a challenge game, and 3 of those players were actually mentors, and they couldn't get over it. I actually remembered it, and that's what it's all about. It's about the friendship you make through the GA as well, and other sports as well. But no, Fran, I wouldn't change for the world.
And if they're abusive to you, and I presume they are from time to time, can you walk away from that?
Oh yeah, I can do it, no problem. I just walk away. I just keep going. People know me that if the more that they chaw me, the faster I get to walk away. But that's life. It's people are just venting their anguish at the time. But look, as I said to you, 99% of the people, absolutely no issue, and people will have the crack with you afterwards as well, and that's the most important.
And I got that impression from you that you're kind of amused by it at times, are you? That people get so high and get
I suppose when you're in the thick of the action, and you kind of have to make a judgment call there and then, and you have to go with your gut. And then I'd often say that to myself: if you go to give a penalty or a free or a red card, whatever it is, you know it's a red card. End of story. That's what it is, and that's the reality of it.
Did you ever referee, Joe?
God, no, friend. I've been on left on the pitch. No.
I think I'd be the same as that.
Yeah, no.
No, I couldn't run around anyway, but still.
But I think like that's fierce credit to the referees, and we're only talking about off air, on your Monday morning programme and about the bloody ref was this and the ref was that.
The abuse that comes in here.
And if you had that programme on a Thursday, would it be a different event altogether? Of course it would be totally, because the pressure would be off the punters and all that. But it is great sport is a great, Fran.
Yeah.
And I see sport like sport is a powerful thing, like to get people involved in, no matter what sport it is. It takes the energy, it uses up the energy, it creates friendships. People spot somebody is a bit off, you're a bit fed up today, looking, Fran, is everything all right? They might be the only words anyone will ask you for the whole day, Loneliness has become a terrible thing, out there, because the local pub is gone. I'm not encouraging people to go drinking, but the local pub is gone. Everything that's local is gone. You know what I mean? The corner shop is gone, the creamery is gone. You can go on and on and on. They're all gone, and there's none of them coming back. So loneliness is an unbelievable thing, and we need to understand loneliness. If the postman calls to the house, he can't stay for 10 minutes now because he's on a tracker. You know what I mean? So, the whole system has changed, and we're still not taking into account loneliness. We address it in a flash and just say, it is out there, all right. Yeah. Anyway, what we have today, we move on. But loneliness is a terrible problem for people, right?
It's interesting, because we hear a lot about it in here. I know that with Ellie and Leanne and producers over the time, people ring in, and often they ring in just for a chat.
They do, yeah. They just ring in for a chat. And you're not really, when you hear Carol say now in the evening time there, when you hear that going on, and you'll see some of the same names coming up and coming up and coming up. So then, some people are probably ringing in to get a request for themselves, just to speak to somebody, just to get a voice out there. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
They're doing it. But
it is kind of sad.
It is kind of sad when you think about it. It is kind of sad. It is indeed,
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the very best where Movember is concerned, and thanks for the great work. Brian, lovely to meet you, Brian. Thanks, and thanks, Joe. Always good to see you.
Thanks again, Fran.
News and information's coming up.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puck On. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puck On. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24 111.
Thanks, Matt, and welcome back to the second hour of Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. I've been glancing through our WhatsApp and text, and I've been listening to Ali telling me about the phone calls she's getting as well. Suffice to say that people not at all happy with my conversation with Cynthia Ni Murchu this morning, and people rather concerned about some of what she had to say. Look, it's something we will get back to again, we promise you, where that is concerned. But right now, glad to be joined in the studio by disability rights campaigner Cara Darmody and her dad Mark. Good morning to you both, and thanks for coming in.
Good morning, Fran.
Good morning.
You're just fresh from an exam, Cara.
Yeah, just fresh. So pretty good now. I always work my hardest in school, and like I have exams next week, so I'm kind of knuckling down now with the studying and doing study after school every day. So, but next week it will all be over. So then I'll be able to relax for like a week, because then I have a big event coming up.
You have indeed, because of course the last time you were in with us we were talking about the 20 million of government funding towards what we now know of as Cara's fund. You have an announcement today. What is that announcement, Cara?
Okay, everyone listen up, because my big announcement is that I'm going back out on the street for another 50 hours to raise awareness about the autism issue, and to also fundraise for Autism Assistance Dogs Ireland. And my protest is going to be from 10 a.m. on the 2nd of December on the Tuesday to 12 p.m. on Thursday the 4th of December. And this isn't like the last protest, because the last protest, it was in the end of May and the weather was quite nice and it was sunny except for a few rain showers. But this time it's an endurance test, Fran, because it's going to be freezing cold and it's going to be really, really tough. But if that means that I can help people rushing on waiting lists, then I'm going to do it, and I'm going to sleep on the street for 50 hours, because the assessments and needs waiting lists have gotten worse. They've gone from 15,000 up to over 18,000 since my last protest, and that's why I feel like I need to do this. And also because one of my big regrets of the last protest was not doing a fundraiser, because I think of all the money I could have raised and how many more people I could have even helped after my protest. And that's why I'm going to be raising money for Autism Assistance Dogs Ireland, and their fundraiser actually launched half an hour ago on I Donate, so anyone who wants to donate, they can.
Fantastic indeed. And Mark, feeling the need to do this again, and to do it under more extreme circumstances, it just goes to show you the lists, they're getting longer.
They are, Fran, yeah, and I suppose, look, we as parents are finding this hard to get to this point again. Now, she did tell the government very clearly 6 months ago that in 6 months we'll have a check and see where you are, and if you're not doing, if the lists aren't coming down, then we're going to have to, she said, I'm going to have to go back outside Leinster House. So, she was very clear to them, and she just keeps her promises. Look, it's going to be very tough, but I suppose we have a huge plan in place for her. But I suppose just to give listeners out there a taste of what families have to go through. So, since even here in Clonmel, so right now in Clonmel, there is no psychologist for a child with a disability, no dietitian, no physio, and no occupational therapist. The building is more or less empty. So you go to them. We had a meeting last week with our HSE manager, lovely lady. There's just no services. So and this is just our own kind of example. Our son John, he needs a device because he can't hold a pen. He just doesn't have the power in his hand to hold a pen. All we need is an OT to sign off on it.
An occupational therapist.
Yeah, occupational therapist. Simple signature, basically. That's all it's needed. But they don't have one, and they've no access to one. So basically, it's up to us. We either wait a couple of years for the HSE, or we just go and pay privately for a job that the HSE should be doing, but that they just can't do. So the reality for parents all over the country, Clonmel, would be exactly what's going on. The buildings are more or less empty.
I put that issue, among others, to Minister Michael Moynihan last week. I think you might have been listening into that, Mark. Did you take any heart from anything you heard from the Minister?
No, is the answer. You asked him a straight question. Again, look, we're not here to discuss legal issues, but you asked him a straight question. Are there any children in County Tipperary waiting on a school place? And he answered emphatically, no. Our family is waiting on a place, and we have a legal case against Minister Moynihan. How he could use the words no is just beyond me. But he said he can't discuss legal cases then and all. But, again, he's pivoting away. It's, slippery behaviour maybe. That's a nice word for it. But bottom line is, no, parents, we don't get any... you can't get any consolation from. It's always a promise. It's always what's coming. But they told us that in the Dáil 6 months ago, and now we're back here 6 months, and actually things are way worse.
Yeah. No, Cara, there are the positives, and the 20 million, I suppose, being the great positive. But are you disappointed at this point? Because promises were made to you. They all took an opportunity to get their photograph taken with you. And they've let you down.
I am, Fran, and I met Simon Harris again at the start of September, and he made a couple of promises to me, and one of them was to table the new law in front of the Dáil by January 2026. But time is ticking. That's only a month and a half away, so I'm going to have to go up there and remind them that he promised that and that they need to get to that urgently. And I'm actually going to just read out my 3 key demands that I have from them here, which is why I'm doing it overall. The first one is to deliver timely assessments for every autistic child in Ireland and to stop breaking the assessment needs all. As you know, I've been campaigning for that for months. The second one is to provide sustainable government funding for all autism services, including Autism Assistance Dogs Ireland, you know, like the dog crowd that I'm fundraising for. And then the final one is to activate an emergency plan to recruit the therapists needed to bring the waiting list down and to include international recruitment if necessary, which I think it is, because look, the government are not treating this like an issue, and like the assessments needs waiting lists are getting worse, and it's like, while I've got 20 million euros government funding which will help 6,500 children, it's not enough, because since my last protest, like the waiting lists have gone up by over 3,000, and it's disgraceful, and the government, just their attitude towards this issue is wrong, and ultimately I'm going up there to get change.
I put that to him, the latter part of what you're talking to me about, is because you came up with ideas as to how they could recruit, and in fact you had a company in your own home from across the pond in the UK to say that they could supply people. I lost the will to live trying to get an answer from the minister where that is concerned, because it just all became kind of too opaque and so on. What do you make of that? They won't listen to outside the box ideas.
Yeah, look, listen, I think it's disgraceful, really, because when, like, for example, like the HC recruitment campaign that they launched, like they didn't put that on like TV or public media, and like barely anyone knew about it, and that's just one of many examples of like things that they're doing wrong. And it's like they're not treating this issue urgently, and just little things like that show the lack of urgency, that like they're not willing to put it out in the public domain and in the public view so that people even know it's going on. And I just think it's terrible that like kids, because the way I see it as a 15-year-old girl, right, who just goes to school every day and like sees my brother struggling at home, is that like my brothers can't fight back for themselves, but like these people who their job ultimately is to help these people and to take these responsibilities, and then they just don't see the urgency to help those who can't like fight back for themselves. Like my poor little brother John, like Dad was saying there, like he doesn't even have the strength to hold a pen because of his disabilities, and like he's like hypermobile and all that, and it's just so hard to watch as like their older sister, just to see the lack of urgency, not even just being shown to my own brothers but to everyone, and how people have to wait years on a waiting list, and I just find that really wrong.
Mark, have you come to a conclusion of this? Are there a couple of simple steps that they could take to alleviate all of this?
Simple. Find therapist. Simple as that. They need to find therapists. You can discuss whether it's AON, whatever it is. Like parents want therapists. They want therapy. That's what they want ultimately.
And are these therapists available in other jurisdictions?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely available. We had a commercial director of a British company with access to 2,300 therapists. What has the government done since we made that information available? Nothing. Nothing. They've done absolutely nothing with that. So the bottom line is, unless you can find therapists and bring them in, but even the national recruitment campaign, Fran, there's something wrong when a 15-year-old is being written to by the government, and thank you very much for that, saying that 20 million is going to Cara's fund. Like, do you remember the days years ago when adults actually did their jobs and adults were in charge of this country? And then you have a 15-year-old convincing the HSE to run a national recruitment campaign. Why is a 15-year-old convincing them to do that? Why aren't they doing that anyway? And then when they do it, we saw the Garda campaign. Sure, the dog on the street knows that they're looking for guards. And they got over 11,000 applications with a huge PR campaign. I was talking to therapists who work in the HSE. They didn't even know about this campaign. So even their own staff. So it would be like stopping a guard on the road and he's not aware that the guards are looking for young guards. It is beyond a joke. But children, there's nearly 100,000 children in Ireland right now suffering permanent damage due to lack of therapies in this country. It needs to stop. But it's not going to happen soon. So I suppose Cara's theory is go back in the street and wake them up a little bit and see what happens.
And the fundraising as well for the dogs.
Yeah.
That's another aspect that you were let down
I
on,
mentioned that, yeah, sorry. So Autism Assistant Dogs Ireland, they're a national charity, one of the best charities in this country. But basically what happens is that like kids like our little boy John, he just hasn't the capability of making friends because he can't talk. It's just as simple as that. So we have Crumble, the nicest dog in the world. We 1 in every 3 families who applies gets a dog, 2 don't, because they don't have, they get no state funding whatsoever. So they're urgently looking for funding. So at the time they went in front of the same Dáil committees Cara did, and the government made the cabinet got a recommendation that there's direct funding to go for service dogs. And what happened with that recommendation? It's sitting on a shelf. So all Cara's going to be doing is asking the government to comply with your own promise. You promised to fund service dogs. Please do it. It's as simple as that. So we'd ask anyone out there, Cara's on I Donate, before we can get to the government, because it'll take years to get that funding through. But if people could donate, it would help so much. They can go on I Donate. It's Cara's 50 hours for change. Or just type in Cara Darmody and hit the recent button on it and you can donate. We'd be so appreciative. But she's going to fundraise on the street as well up there outside Leinster House, so we'll see how that goes.
Good. So December 2nd for 50 hours once again, Cara.
Yeah, until December the 4th.
All right. Well, we wish you well, and I hope you'll talk to me from the protest as well.
Oh,
The bat phone.
absolutely.
Do you remember the bat
I love
phone?
to. The bat phone, yeah. Maybe the bat phone number 2 this time.
Yeah, direct line to Tipp FM.
Yes.
Well, we'd be delighted to chat to you. And look, many congratulations to you. And I just see the screen here in front of me, people saying how wonderful you are, but you know that anyway, don't you? Cara and Mark, thank you so much.
Thank you so
indeed.
much.
And we look forward to talking to you in early December. Thank you. We'll take a break. We're back with more in just a moment.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, puck on. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Well, there's been a lot of discussion online about the inauguration of our new President, Catherine Connolly, yesterday. This part of the ceremony in particular got a lot of reaction.
O Allah, Lord of the heavens and the earth, the giver of honor and the source of peace, we thank you for this day, for the blessings of our nation and for the trust placed in the hands of its leaders. O Allah, guide our new president with wisdom, sincerity and justice, that she may lead with humility and serve with compassion. O Allah, bless this nation and its people with unity and tranquility. Protect us from division and injustice. Grant our leader hands that work for the welfare of all. Let them be guardians of peace, champions of mercy, and servants of the common good.
Now, Catherine joins me. Good morning to you, Catherine.
Good morning, Fran.
Good to talk to you today. You were wondering in a message to us whether or not anybody was going to discuss this today, Catherine. Do you have a problem with that contribution from the Imam?
Of course I have a big problem, Fran. Who's Allah? He's not Almighty God. I have a big problem with it.
Well, he's the God for Muslims, and Allah means God, and, they were
No,
there.
Allah doesn't mean God, Fran. Allah does not mean God. He's not the God of the Bible that created heaven and earth.
Right.
He's not.
Well, he's not your God, Catherine, I suppose, but,
Well, he's not anyone with a bit of common sense as God. Allah. Why didn't they get a Christian pastor to speak there? I'm sure there's plenty.
Well, they had representatives of many different faiths there yesterday.
Well, why didn't they stand up then and talk?
Well, they did. They took part in the
as I said,
ceremony.
I didn't watch it.
Ah, well, you see them. But
she's not my president. I didn't vote for her anyway.
Right. But, and you didn't watch the ceremony anyway, Catherine, no?
I didn't. I heard it many times on the radio.
Right. Okay. Well,
to me, Fran, the person should be in the Phoenix Park is Maria Steen.
Yeah.
But of course, she was blocked by the cabal.
Well, just to be clear on what happened yesterday, I mean, the ceremony did feature prayers from various different faiths, highlighting our diverse religious landscape now, whether we like it or not. I mean, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, lots of other religions as well, making up the Irish population now, Catherine.
Well, I think it's very sad. We should stick to the God of that we were brought up with. And the last president, Michael Higgins, I didn't hear anything like that going on.
Yeah, well, back in 2018, he did have diverse religious input into the inauguration as well. So, I mean, would you discount people of other faiths, Catherine?
I wouldn't discount them, Fran, but don't push them on us.
Yeah.
They can have their faith. Anyone can be any faith they want.
But you see, Catherine Connolly is making the point, and most presidents made this point in their inauguration speech, that they are the president for all of the people of Ireland, the diversity that is now in Ireland.
Fran.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they're for all people once you're not Irish. I get that.
But I mean, she's talking specifically about representing all of the Irish people and everything that makes up Ireland of 2025.
I don't believe that for 1 minute.
Do you not?
Not at all.
Why, Catherine?
Because I watched her giving different speeches, and she's very, very liberal, and it's all about, the genders and this, that, and the other.
Mm.
So the Irish people will be a minority, and I'd say 5 to 15 years, Fran, we'll be fighting for our rights.
But we may have a new Ireland, a new Irish.
I don't want a new Ireland, Fran. I'm quite happy with the one our forefathers died for.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with the old Ireland.
Yeah. So as far as you're concerned, she doesn't represent you as president then, does she?
Not in a million years. Never.
Right.
A big never.
But she did have a Christian input into the inauguration, though, alongside Islam and Judaism and Protestantism and all the other isms in there. So it was inclusive, I suppose. Multicultural.
Let's keep it Irish and keep Allah out of the equation.
Yeah, it's particularly that reference to Allah, is it? That's troubling you.
Absolutely, of course it is, Fran.
Yeah.
Allah, I don't want Allah as my God. I have the God of creation, heaven and earth.
Right, but nobody is pushing Allah on you. That's.
Oh, it will be. Make no mistake about it. This is the back door. Ireland is slowly walking into the lion's den. They want to take over. Not only in Ireland, but the world.
And that's what you believe. You believe that fervently, do you?
That's going on. The dogs on the street can see it.
Mm.
Every country in the world.
And for the sake of argument, did Christianity over the centuries not make attempts to sort of spread that particular gospel globally and bring it to other countries and maybe
What gospel, Fran, are you talking about?
Well, I'm saying spreading the word of Christianity. Wasn't there attempts to bring that to Africa?
Sure, the word of God, that's a command from God. Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel. What is the gospel?
Well, the Quran,
the gospel is the good news.
The Book of Islam, the Quran, would have a very similar message, I suppose. Are they not entitled to their take on?
As I said, Fran, they're entitled to whatever they want, but don't push it on us. I have seen the Quran, and it's full of violence.
I know, but I mean, if you want to talk about violence, have a look at the Old Testament.
Oh, we know that, yeah, the Old Testament, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're living in the present.
Yeah. And is your life very, very much based on the Christian Bible? Is it, Catherine? Is that?
It is, Fran, yeah. I mean, what else have we got?
Yeah.
It's your compass for life.
Right. And
of course we haven't done everything right. I haven't.
And the
But
idea,
who has?
the idea of live and let live, and live, with diversity and with.
Yeah, everyone can live whatever way they want. But the fact of a man standing up and preaching another God, that is horrible.
All right, Catherine, thanks for your time today, and thank you indeed for coming on with us. That's Catherine speaking to us this morning. How do you feel about that? Let's go to Donal. Donal, good morning to you.
How you doing, Fran?
I'm good, Donal. You were listening to our interview with MEP Cynthia Ni Murchu this morning.
I was.
Yeah. You take issue with her, do you?
I do, and can I just make one quick point there to the lady who had on just there now. I'm a Christian, a devout Christian, and I wouldn't share her thoughts whatsoever. As a matter of fact, Allah and God could be put down as the same person. And if she read the Quran speaks very highly of Jesus in the Quran, but they just recognise Jesus as a prophet.
So you had no problem with that?
I had no problem whatsoever. We have Muslims in the country. We have Jews in the country. We have whatever. I'm Church of Ireland myself. So,
yes.
But I'm a Christian. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in God. I believe in the Blessed Trinity. But I also believe in love. And unfortunately, that lady I had on before, I didn't hear one mention of the word love in her voice. So I just wanted to make that point. That, not all Christians think like this. And you're dead right to make the point about the Crusades as well.
Yeah, well, there's a bloody history there for sure. If we want to go back,
yes, the Crusades, and the Spanish Inquisition and whatever else. Yes.
Now, however, I do have sympathy for, and I don't want to say that Catherine is old, but I have sympathy for older people because it's a very different Ireland now. It's a changing Ireland.
And so do I. And listen, I'm 60 years of age, and I don't like the changes happening in Ireland. But I don't think it's a religious change. I mean, and we get back to the interview you said this morning, that lady had on this morning, it was pure propaganda what she came out with.
Yeah. What aspect of it in particular, Donal,
well, first of all, she gave out, I was livid when she gave out about the Hungarian president. The Hungarian president has a mandate.
Viktor Orban, yes.
Yeah, has a mandate. And he's been treated disgustingly by the European Union and our own politicians here. I think he sent to a soccer match here or something, and
he was ignored, wasn't he? Well, politically ignored, yes. Yeah.
His people want him to enforce the policies that he's enforcing. His people, the Hungarian people. He's been fined €1 million a day because he won't toe the line with Europe.
Particularly where immigration policies are concerned.
Yes, exactly. These are the policies that his people... And then about our democracy. There is no democracy in the European Union. If I hear another MEP saying what we in, the European Parliament have no powers whatsoever. And I challenge any member of the European Parliament to come on the station and tell me what powers they have. They have none. It's the European Commission rules. Rules, and that's it. And nobody voted them in.
And this is headed up by Ursula von der Leyen, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. There is no democracy in Europe whatsoever. And she went on about the iPad Centre in Drogheda. Let's face it, that's all gone very quiet because we know it wasn't the far right that burned the place.
Yeah, well, the jury's still out on that and they're still investigating.
But she has come on and she said it's definitely the far right.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to see what comes out, but I am very interested to see the fact that this has all gone very quietly. And the biggest thing she came out with is that she said that the minister gave her these figures. I'll be shocked if you get these figures.
Yeah, well, I was kind of shocked at that as well because my understanding of that was those stats were not available.
No, they're not available. And I'm not going to call the woman a liar or anything, but I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
And I hope that you keep on top of it. And if you don't get these figures, that she'll be called out in it.
Well, as you heard, Donal, I did say to her I was shocked.
I did. I did. You pushed her. You can only push a person so far, but I will be shocked. And I will never forget what she said. She said it's possibly below 3%, but it's definitely below 5%. So let's wait and see these figures.
No, Ellie is just telling me we haven't gotten them yet. So we're waiting.
I'd be doubtful if you get them. And if you do get them, I don't think you'll be getting what you want. Because people have been pushing and pushing for this, and no mention of it. There was an interview on the Late Show, I think, the weekend with the Social Democrats.
Holly Cairns,
she got away with murder with the interview.
Yeah, pretty much she did all right. And I mean, some of her statements as well weren't big. I mean, I'm not sure how good her math was with the whole per capita thing.
They could only say one thing, and the lady had said the same thing. If you don't agree with us, you're a Nazi. mean, the Times came out and said the other day that there's too many people coming to this country. If any person that said that, and you were dead right, said that a year ago, was a Nazi.
Yeah.
But now they're
racist, bigoted, all of that, yeah.
Yeah, and they're closing the door, and you're dead right, because of the spoiled vote. People are waking up. They're waking up all over Europe. They're waking up.
That's
in the
interesting.
UK.
Is that what you believe? Do you think Simon Harris and Micheál Martin were reacting to the enormity of the spoiled vote?
Of course, yeah. What happens in the UK, we get it here later on. Like, you have now the Prime Minister of the UK. He's been ousted at the moment. There's a coup taking place. Because the no reform is going to take over. The BBC have lied through their teeth, and RTE are doing the same thing. And they're talking about misinformation. People have to go to the phones and for their information, because they're not getting it with the mainstream media. If it wasn't for local stations like yourself, people would not get the truth. And this lady came on and she talked nothing, only propaganda and lies. A lot of it was lies, and I have to say this. You know, and she's getting away with it on the national media, and people like her getting away with it on the national media. You know, you have pushed her, and I listened to you pushing her, but you can only push them so far, like, and it's so wrong, like.
Yeah, well, you can only ask a question a couple of times, besides literally calling somebody a liar and you don't want to be doing anything like that.
No, you don't want to be doing that. So that's why I'd wait to see will we get these stats. I personally don't believe we will. But if we do get the stats, I'll be good enough to say, there you have, we have the stats, fair enough.
Well, Donal, I'll keep you up to I'll keep you up to speed on that when we get them. Good to talk to you, Donal. Thanks very much indeed. Thank you. That's Donal speaking to us there. Back in just a moment.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tipp today on 1800 938 007. Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon, now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the Expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long-wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Join the conversation in Tipperary. Contact us through Facebook, Twitter, or email tiptoday@tippfm.com.
Huge reaction to my chat there with Catherine, and almost all of it pretty negative, I have to say, and indeed reaction to that chat with Donal there as well. We'll get back to it all, but in a riveting expose, author Eimear Ni Bhronain details the extraordinary fall from grace of Kilkenny hurling star DJ Carey, who has been sentenced to 5.5 years for defrauding 22 people out of nearly €400,000 by falsely claiming that he had cancer. For nearly 3 years, Eimear conducted over 100 interviews to uncover the depths and the impact of his financial scamming and deceit. Is all contained in the book The Dodger, and I'm glad to say Eimear joins me now. Good morning to you, Eimear.
Good morning, Fran, to your listeners.
And many congratulations to you. This is a wonderful book. It's so hard to put the blooming thing down, though. It was literally a page turner. The title is very apt, Eimear, but it doesn't refer to the betrayal, as you put it, the Dodger.
Yeah, the Dodger is DJ's nickname. So his nickname on the hurling field, because he was so good at getting out of danger. He was known for his sidestep. So as a little boy, even he got the name after the artful Dodger.
So that's where that came from. You knew him through your work as a journalist, and indeed your work with KCLR as well, Eimear, but you didn't know him all that well. Is that fair to say?
That's right, Fran. I knew him professionally, you might say. His phone number was in my phone book. Like yourself, I come into contact with a lot of people from working in media over the years, and there were times when I contacted DJ to come on the radio or to ask him to do a media interview, and that was the level of my interaction. Outside of that, I had huge admiration for the man. I thought he was a fantastic sportsman. I thought he was a great ambassador for the sport. I didn't have deep suspicions about him, although really with hindsight, maybe I should have looked more closely at DJ, because as a young reporter in my 20s when I worked for the Irish Independent, I came across DJ Carey's, say, business interests, DJ Carey Enterprises, and there were a lot of question marks over what happened there at the time, because there was serious money missing from his accounts and his business was in jeopardy. But we would have thought this was a guy that, like a lot of people in the Celtic Tiger, the banks came after him. He bought properties that, as it turns out, they were only worth a fraction of the mortgages he had got, and we thought he was a man under pressure, and that you would have a certain amount of sympathy for somebody in that situation.
You made some very interesting points. I mean, anytime you spoke to him, really, and a lot of what you heard about him, there was always drama, was there not, where DJ was concerned?
There was always drama, and even if it was a sports story, even if it was like, say, the run-up to the 2002 All-Ireland final, like, you know, DJ made these incredible comebacks from injury. He made so many front-page stories, so many headlines, Fran, that there was always seemed to be, he was in the centre of every story.
And as I say, your dealings with him were just professional. But how did he come across to you? Was he charming? Was he funny? What was he like in those dealings, Eimear?
He was straightforward. He was usually on the phone. You know, he didn't usually come into the studio. It was phone calls, and I thought, some people had said to me now, they didn't say to me years ago, oh, I didn't trust him, or I didn't think there was always something about him. I wasn't one of those people, I'll be honest with you, Fran. I was blinded by him. I thought he was a good guy. I thought he was straight up. I felt a bit sorry for him. I thought he was a bit of a cash cow for his family and his community, because he was the one with the big name and he was giving people jobs in his business. Then he met Sarah Newman and they were at the height of their fame. He looked awkward in some of the photographs, I thought, you know, at these celebrity charity bashes, because this was a guy I thought that was down to earth DJ. He was the kind of fella, as the Kilkenny people reported years ago, that would drink the tea and the biscuits and you could bring home to your mammy. That's who I thought we were dealing with. But it's when you, and I spent a lot of time researching this didn't happen overnight. I've been observing him, I've been interacting with people very close to him and keeping an eye on him over a period of years, in recent years, when I realised that something was seriously amiss. And I started looking into the archives. And when I was in my 20s as a younger journalist, I wouldn't have ever, would say Google wasn't as much at our fingertips. It was fairly new, and you couldn't see every single article, listen to every single interview as easily as you can now with the wealth of archive material that's there, the Irish Newspaper Archive. I was able to go way back. I was able to really analyse and print out every interview he ever gave. DJ's my greatest source of information in this book, because he talked so much over the years, and it's only when you scrutinise all of that in light of the new information and the interviews that I have that you realise, hang on, maybe this guy was not straight up, and maybe he was controlling the media narrative for a very long time.
So much in the book that I certainly didn't know, Eimear. Like, after he broke up with Sarah Newman, for example, would you tell me about the women that he met then online and the scams there?
Yeah, he was a busy buckle, and again,
Wasn't he
you
just?
might think he was. You might think, you know, from your interactions, if, say, for instance, I would know people that have been in his company and would say to me, DJ said, you know, that he'd no experience with women. The only women he'd ever been with was his former wife and Sarah Newman. Yet, where, again, there's all these contradictions when I started to properly dig and ask. And Carlow is small where I'm from, and Kilkenny where I worked for years. A lot of people know each other. Yeah. So it didn't take me very long to come across women, actually, that said, well, my friend was in a relationship, or I know somebody who was in a brief relationship or a long relationship or some kind of friendship or situationship. I came across all of the above with DJ Carey. And these were not people that were they were very credible women. They were very reluctant maybe to open up, and it took a period of time to figure out what those interactions were. And it seems, I'll give you one example. In 2013, he met a very nice lady on Plenty of Fish, and they spent some time together. He was in the K Club at the time, but almost immediately she noticed there was something off. He revealed he had a serious illness, multiple myeloma, and that he'd travelled to Seattle for treatment. And he told a lot of these people this story of going to the Fred Hutch Cancer Centre in Seattle. But he told her other things that didn't stack up. Like he had these mad stories about he was about to make his tens of millions of fortune from a land deal, and he showed others documentation around this, maps and everything describing this as the most valuable land. Like if you were in Croke Park, he'd mention the most expensive seats in Croke Park, and he'd compare to that and say it was between Vietnam, Cambodia and Thailand. And then when the woman scrutinised, say, in some of the emails he was sending, she could see his solicitor was called David James, he claimed, but she looked at the email address, it was DJ's own email address. So she soon started to question him, and she got the cold shoulder. And this was a pattern he had with women. Once they started asking him very direct questions and uncomfortable questions, and the shine went off, he lost interest in the relationship. But not before he had extracted thousands of euro from that woman. But to be fair to her, and not many people got their money back, but she got her money back in dribs and drabs, in checks from Kilkenny mostly, she thought.
I really have to congratulate you on getting particularly these women to talk, because they must have been embarrassed by the whole thing. Were they, Eimear?
They were, but I'll tell you, to be honest with you, Fran, the men are more embarrassed to talk. So I found that even when women were steeped in the GAA, they were more transparent with me. They were less nervous. And I think that could be around the humiliation factor, because DJ humiliated a lot of older men. Men who gave him money, believed he was ill, and didn't discuss it with their significant others.
So they were, not only embarrassed, but really disappointed in this guy who was their hero, I suppose.
That's exactly it. And I think of Tommy Butler.
Yeah.
Tommy is a reluctant witness. You know, Tommy did not turn on DJ Carey. The Gardaí came knocking on his door because the Gardaí got a call from the banks that a suspicious transaction had been flagged on their system. The bank now has, all the banks have, protections in place for vulnerable customers to stop them being scammed. And that set off a chain of events. They contacted the Gardaí to say a vulnerable customer was about to transfer money to DJ Carey. The Gardaí in Waterford sought his bank statements, and they found names on those statements that would indicate that people were transferring large sums of money to DJ Carey, and they needed to figure out why. So one of the names on those statements was Thomas Butler. So Tommy still believed DJ had cancer when the Gardaí called him. And he went in and they explained to him that Mr. Carey did not have cancer, that he never had cancer, that he was in fact in good health. But Tommy found that very hard to believe because DJ had put in such a performance with him. The word Tommy eventually used to describe his special friend was evil, because such was the level of the deception that he nearly wiped the man's lump sum out, that he was finally getting a small lump sum, coming into retirement, preparing kind of, to enjoy himself after years and years of hard work and rearing 5 children. DJ honed in on him as he was about to get that lump sum, and he took him for nearly €17,000. Significant sum to Thomas Butler.
His former teammates, did they interact with you? Were they open with you, Eimear?
Some were, but not open. So did they interact? I know some of them. So I had interactions with lots of people.
Yeah. But they didn't want to give much away, did they?
No, and I understand that, because if I was a teammate, and I'll admit this, cancel culture now, nobody is admitting things like this anymore. We're afraid that we'll be taken out in the media if we tell the truth. But if you or I were on a team with DJ Carey for years and years and years, you could see how when he was on the team, he was very loyal to the team. He wasn't a glory hunter. He wasn't known for that within the play.
Yeah, sure.
He might have been in the media, but within the actual game, he set up scores. People who looked at the game every which way said he was an excellent team player, and he brought this extra DJ factor to the team that when he walked onto the field, the supporters got behind the team. So there'd be huge loyalty there. It'd be very hard for his former teammates to turn on him. So I think people, in situations like this, we've lots of questions. We've so many questions. We start to point the finger of blame. We start to say, oh, did you know? Lots of people knew different things. Not everyone knew everything. Does it make it right? No, it's not right. But there's only one person to blame for all of this, and he's in Mountjoy.
A couple of things just before I let you go, Eimear. Some people saying that he wasn't very bright, for example. Do you go along with that?
No. I had people roar laughing when I rang them. I mean, they had to calm down when they found out I was doing this story. And I couldn't really get my head around it, but I didn't want to shut down the conversation by snarling back at them. So I would keep an open mind and say, what's so funny? You know, what's going on? And they just said, come on, Eimear, sure you know about this fella. Surely you know what he was like. He was Walter Nitty. He wouldn't lie straight in bed. He was as thick as the ditch. They would use phrases like this, people who knew him for years and years and years. I didn't know that, Fran.
And to scheme the way he did, are you saying there must have been some form of intelligence there, however sort of depraved it was?
Absolutely, because there was insight, there was meticulous planning. This wasn't a fraud that happened overnight. If you take the example of Thomas Butler, I would nearly compare it to a kind of a grooming that went on over a period of time, over lots of text messages, over lots of games of golf. Tommy was a massive Kilkenny hurling fan. He's from Wexford, but he had family connections in Kilkenny and was reared with Kilkenny hurling, if you get me. He even had a photograph of DJ Carey in the hallway with his daughter. Like, this was huge to him. But DJ was very, very cunning and very clever and ruthless in how he executed this fraud. And I wouldn't have believed it. I genuinely wouldn't have believed it, only I know some of the people involved as well. And I've seen the messages back and forth. And the other person I'd refer to would be a brilliant businesswoman, Mag Kerwin. And she has multiple myeloma, the illness that DJ claimed to have. And while she was chasing him for her money back, she was in treatment for multiple myeloma.
My God.
She's still, it's an ongoing, unfortunately, an ongoing illness she has.
Oh my God. And just finally, when we discussed DJ Carey following the sentencing, interesting, some words came into it, like narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, mental illness, all of these things. Have you decided yourself at this point, Eimear, does any of those titles fit?
To be honest with you, Fran, I didn't decide anything. I tried to stay in the middle, so I got an expert. And I didn't even think it was fair to get an expert in Ireland because Ireland's too small and maybe somebody would be related to him or know him or something. So I went to the United States to look for, I started to research medical deception, Munchausen's, these kind of factitious disorders where someone could be genuinely mentally ill. And I contacted a clinical forensic psychologist by the name of Dr. Mark Feldman. I got his book. He is a very good authority on these areas. And he was very kind with his time. I did some Zooms back and forth and correspondence over email with him about DJ Carey. Now, obviously, he never examined him. It's important to say that in person.
Yes.
But what he did was he said to me, there are indicators. There's a couple of things maybe going on for DJ, right? So I said I wanted to ensure, that if this person has a mental illness, that I need to be aware of that, because that's a different thing to somebody who's simply a fraudster. But what Dr. Feldman outlined was that basically that DJ's primary motivation, by the looks of things, was money. And attention was secondary. Like, he couldn't rule out that he didn't get a kick from deceiving people. In some cases, people do, and that's why they keep doing it. But money was his primary motivation, and a lot of planning went into it. That would suggest criminality and the nature of it as well. He didn't show any remorse. There hasn't been real accountability. Up until the very last moment, he was blaming everyone else for his issues. He blamed the media, he blamed the banks, he blamed the Gardaí for hounding him. He told people it was all going to be sorted. He was in denial. So he has got the traits of an antisocial personality type, which indicates psychopathy or sociopathy. Now, this is what the experts would say in cases like this, but I just lay out the facts and the reader can decide for themselves.
Eimear, it's a wonderful book. I would highly recommend it. It's called The Dodger, DJ Carey and the Great Betrayal. It's out there in all of the usual bookstores. Eimear, thanks for your time this morning. Congrats to you. Thank you.
Appreciate all the support in Tipperary. Thanks, Fran.
Thank you, Carmilla. That's Eimear Ni Bhronain there. The Dodger. Wonderful read altogether. News and information's coming up.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. Over half a century driving the people of Tipperary and surrounding areas with quality, reliable and economical vehicles, new and used. Call the sales team today to discuss your next car or van on 067 24111.
Thanks, Pat. Welcome back to the final hour of Tipp Today, 1800 938 007. Competition time. We are highlighting the opening of the new Carrickdown store in the heart of Clonmel. It's the ultimate destination store this Christmas, we're told, with some amazing exclusive ranges of ladies' fashion, jewellery, gifts, homewares, and of course the wonderful Christmas shop as well. And to celebrate all of that, they've given us a €50 gift card to give away every day this week. So this is your cue to call if you want to win that gift card for Carrickdown. All you have to do is text Carrickdown, that's CARRIGDONN, to 083 311 3311. And you can use text or WhatsApp where that is concerned, and we will announce the winner before the end of the programme. Now, an organisation working to get more women involved in dairy farming is holding its national conference on November 22nd with the aim of connecting and empowering women working in the dairy sector. Tipperary farmer Katie Gleeson is part of the group, and she joins me now. Good morning to you, Katie.
Good morning, Fran, and good morning to your listeners. Thanks for having me on.
You're very welcome indeed. I'm really intrigued with your story, Katie. How does a hairdresser end up as a dairy farmer?
Well, I would have to say I had the worst case of agricultural Stockholm syndrome ever. So it was love that brought me into farming. So I married a dairy farmer, Philip, my husband. So we met years and years ago, and we built a house out on the farm. We had 3 lovely kids, and in 2017, when Philip was taking over his family dairy farm, I became more involved also at that point.
And what did you make of it at the start? Because, with the greatest of respect, I understand you didn't know anything about slurry or cattle or cows or anything at all, really, Katie, about agri.
No, absolutely not. I always joke about it. Back 20 years ago, I couldn't have told you the difference between slurry and silage. I knew nothing about farming. It was terrible, really. But as I became more involved and I began to go out into the farmyard, I realised what an amazing job farmers do. You know, you're dealing with everything from animal health to land management to business to, veterinary. There's so many facets to farming, and I suppose I've always been someone who's been interested in science and the natural world, so this was just really, really interesting to me, and I've just loved farming every day since.
It's fantastic. But, not only did you embrace it, but you went on to study it in depth as well as everything else. And your role is kind of varied, is it not, Katie?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose I'm coming at it from a few angles. I'm working in the family farm alongside my husband and my parents-in-law, but I've also gone back to college as well to study agricultural science and sustainability in TUS in Thurles. To kind of grow my knowledge, I wanted something a bit meatier than a mean cert, and I was so fortunate that course, which is a new course, came up in Thurles, and I've had the opportunity to pursue that. But I also became, inadvertently, a social media influencer through farming, which was a path I had never expected to take. But at the time, back in 2017, when I became more involved in the farm, I also got into photography. And I was a member of Thurles Camera Club for a while, actually. Yeah. But I began to take pictures around the farm and share that online. And through that, people began to follow me, and I suppose at the time there was very much this green wave kind of happening throughout Europe. And there was a lot of misinformation being spread about farming and what actually happens. And there wasn't many farmers on social media at the time. So I took it upon myself to share my lived experience and share my journey about learning how to become a farmer with people on social media. And it just seemed to resonate, which was fantastic.
Will you explain something? You spoke about the sense of purpose of farming. Will you just tease that out for me? What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. Well, I suppose as a farmer, we're producing a public good as a private, producer. So, we're producing food for Ireland, but also for the world. Our dairy, our meat gets exported globally. And, there's something really empowering about that, that you're doing a job that's meaningful to society. But not only that, it's a privilege to own land in this country, especially, these days. And, I suppose we're custodians of the land and we're learning how to manage that land as best we can. So that's also a great responsibility. And coming from a family farm too, my husband's family has been farming that land for generations. So you definitely have a sense that you're trying to build a business and, mind the land as best you can and pass it on to the next generation. So, I can see walking through the farmyard kind of the improvements that, Philip's granddad would have made, that Philip's parents would have made, and now we have our own chance to put our own stamp in it and make improvements for our own children going forward.
And what are you making of that negative narrative that's around agriculture at the moment? A lot of finger pointing towards farmers in terms of what's happening with the environment and all of that. Does that concern you? Are you conscious of that, Katie?
I'm absolutely conscious of that, Fran, and I've purposely kind of leaned into that, and I've joined local environmental groups like the Community Climate Coaches to try and, explore further, I suppose, how people are feeling in real life, because as we all know, online, it's fantastic, but, extreme opinions are often the ones that kind of get picked up on. So it's always good to kind of go out and touch grass, as they say, and see what's really happening in your communities and with people, how they're really feeling. And it's been part of the reason as well I've decided to go back to college, because the course I'm doing is actually half agricultural science and half environmental science. And I really wanted to get a deeper knowledge and understanding of how farming impacts the environment, both positively and negatively. And I suppose what I've learned is that farmers are doing an awful lot right, but it's a journey the whole of Irish society is on, not just farmers. We all have an impact on the environment. But I suppose farmers are unique in a way that they can make a really positive impact just by adopting some simple changes.
What about the farming organisations? Are you involved there?
No, so the only farming organisation that I'm officially involved with on a voluntary basis is Dairy Women Ireland. So that's why I've come on to talk today about it.
Yeah, and do talk to me about that and the other women that's involved in the organisation, Katie.
Absolutely. So just to give you a quick kind of history on their organisation, we're very new. So Dairy Women Ireland was founded back in 2021. It was born out of a private discussion group on strategic management of farms for farming couples, so husbands and wives or partners involved in farms, by Paddy Kelly and Linaire Ryan. Linaire Ryan is an agri-advisor. She's from New Zealand, and in New Zealand they actually have a Dairy Women organisation. And she approached the women in the group and said, there's something really lacking here in Ireland when it comes to women in dairy, and would you consider setting up your own group? And the women were absolutely, really keen to do it. So in 2021, we had our first national conference, which actually took place in the TUS campus in Thurles. And from there, the organisation has grown really quickly into a national organisation. So we have different regions, and here in Tipperary, we're under the North Munster region. And we hold events and workshops and kitchen table talks for women involved in the dairy sector.
You have that big event then on the 21st of November at the Charleville Park Hotel. What can people expect from that, Katie?
Absolutely. So it's our fourth conference and we're going bigger and better than ever. So we're going to have two keynote speakers, which is Cynthia Ni Murchu, who was on with you earlier here, Fran, and Maria Walsh, MEP. So they're doing a joint keynote address, which is Say Yes to Success and Embracing Opportunity with Optimism. There's also going to be a few breakout sessions where, we break off into smaller rooms and explore different topics in a more intimate setting. So I'm leading one of those sessions called From Parlour to Public, exploring dairy social licence, alongside the National Dairy Council CEO, Emma Wall, and the Head of Communications with Borbia, Rosalina O'Shaughnessy. There's also going to be sessions on juggling life and dairy farming, managing lameness, sire selection, and there's going to be a panel discussion chaired by Alice Doyle of the IFA called No Setbacks Without Success and Lessons in Resilience. So there's 3 women going to be interviewed on that panel, Shannon Porter, Catherine O'Leary and Imelda Kinsella, and kind of talking about how they found success in the dairy sector despite resilience or barriers they may have encountered. And this year we're doing something a little different. So we're going to have a gala dinner along with a fashion show showing agri workwear for women and clothing from some local boutiques around Charleville. So it's going to be a day for all sorts of people, all sorts of interests. And I suppose it's reflective of our membership. There's women at different stages in the dairy sector involved in Dairy Women Ireland. So we have women who have worked all their lives on farms, are taking over the farm successor. But we also have people like me, who married into farm and are maybe just trying to find their feet. So we're trying to, provide something for everybody.
Very good. And I presume you would embrace, I'm thinking about older women out there who have worked their whole lives. I mean, literally on farms and working alongside men and doing so brilliantly as well. They're all embraced in your organisation, I presume.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've members of all ages and all stages. And I suppose that's where we kind of saw a gap that was missing. Like with dairy farming, we know we work best when we pull together as a community. And many women know where they belong within their own farmyard. But it's when we went out into the wider community, maybe that wasn't so defined. So that's where we've tried to fill the gap. And there's women of all ages in our community, so it's great.
So the theme is building success, breaking barriers. If people want to get along on the 21st of November, how can they book for that, Katie?
Absolutely. So you can find out more at www.dairywomenireland.ie, where you can purchase your conference tickets online or join our membership. And we're also on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at Dairy Women Ireland, and you can keep up to date with our latest news.
Very good. Do you miss the hairdressing?
I'd say I probably don't, because I get to do a little bit of it with the cows. We have to clip their tails, so we cut the hair off their tails. So I get to scratch the itch that way.
Very good answer, Katie. A real pleasure. Have a great event there on the 21st of November. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fran. Thank you for having me on. Take care.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. And that's Katie Gleeson speaking to us there. From hairdresser to dairy farmer, isn't it great? 1800 938 007.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. Now is the time to pick up your next van. From the award-winning Peugeot Partner van to the expert and the load-lugging Boxer van. We have big vans, high-roof vans, long wheelbase vans. You'll find them all at Slattery's Garage Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage Puckon. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
Now, you can stop calling us where a competition is concerned. We've had a huge entry into it. That's our Carrickdown competition. We will announce the winner of that €50 voucher in just a little while. Brendan Graham is the songwriter behind two Eurovision-winning classics, Rock and Roll Kids and The Voice, and of course the global hit You Raise Me Up. Celebrating his 80th birthday this year, he's released a highly anticipated debut album. It's called The Arrow of Time, and he has an alternative look, I suppose, at some of his own songs. Let me give you a taste of his take on Rock and Roll Kids.
I remember 62. I was 16 and so were you. and we lived next door on the avenue. Jerry Lee was big and Elvis too. Blue jeans and blue suede shoes, and we never knew what life held in store. We just wanted to rock and roll forevermore. We were the rock and roll kids. Rock and roll was all we did, and listening to those songs on the radio. I was yours, you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore.
That's Brendan Graham with a reimagined version of his own song, Rock and Roll Kids, along with some help there, of course, from Paul Harrington and Charlie McGettigan. Well, I'm delighted to say that Brendan joins me online. Good morning to you, Brendan.
Morning to you, Fran, and to all your listeners there in Tipperary. It's a wonder that ever won the Eurovision with that version.
I love that version. I think there's great contemplation to it. It's absolutely beautiful. Can we get the whole Tipperary thing out of the way first of all, Graham? Because, of course, you're a Tipperary man.
Yes, born in Nena, as the BBC call it, many moons ago. My mother was a Whalen from Kickham Street, and my dad has a bit of history. He captained the Nena Ormonds to one of only two, I think, Munster Junior Cups.
Did he?
When he was 21 years old. And there's a great picture of him being carried shoulder high through the streets of Nena after that victory. So, yes.
Fantastic piece of history indeed. Why did it take so long for you to release your own album, Brendan?
Well, very simple. Been a little bit terrified because I'm not a singer, and I'd never any desire to be a singer. I was always happy for, if other people did the songs and took them out there, and it never bothered me if somebody said, that's a Westlife song, or that's, an Anthony Cairns song or a Sean Kane song, because they're the people who have to take the risk with the songs and put them out there. And so people had said to me, you haven't a bad speaking voice. Why don't you record some songs? And speaking is a little bit different from singing. So I thought about it, and two reasons motivated me to embark on this album. One, you have less sort of fear with age, I think. You kind of say, at this age, I don't give a fiddler's what people think. And I also thought that it was about time I put myself out with songs. I'd always been expecting other people to maybe try out a new song at a concert or something, and they put themselves on the line. So I thought, well, maybe I should do it. That was a strong reason. And the other reason was that when I write, and sometimes I'm fortunate enough to get into a space that I call the other self, and stuff happens in there, and you have a particular feeling when you write a song. And sometimes the songs go out and they get big treatments, orchestras, choirs and so on. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be interesting to try and recapture the feeling I had when I wrote a particular song, and go into the studio, strip it all back, and see if I could recapture that feeling. So they were the two reasons.
You see, that's what I find fascinating about the album, and indeed songwriters in general, when they record their own stuff eventually, it does give you an indication of the initial muse, the initial ideas around a song, and I think that I'm fascinated by that.
Well, yeah, and I didn't know how it would work, and I didn't know, it happened a great range, what songs would work. So it took many, many, many months to sort of figure out what songs should I do and what songs should I not do. And with regard to Rock and Roll Kids and indeed The Voice and You Raise Me Up, I thought, well, how can I include them? I'd like to include them as well as some newer songs. So I asked Paul and Charlie if they'd come in and help me out with Rock and Roll Kids, which they both very generously agreed to do. I wasn't going to sing The Voice. I just wouldn't be able to. And I'd mentioned that to Eimear Quinn. And she said, well, why don't you come into the studio and speak it, and I'll sing, around it, or vocalise around it, which is what she did, and it worked out. And then with You Raise Me Up, I felt the same. It was so well known and so many versions that me to do another singing version, was bound to fail. So I spoke to Ralph Loveland, who composed the music, and said, look, would you play piano and I'll do a spoken version of it? And again, he very kindly agreed. So that's what got those songs in. And then there were some very new songs I'd written, which I suppose reflected my view of the world from an 80-year-old songwriter point of view. So songs like What If There's No Tomorrow and The Song Man and The Deepening Silence, which is about time after life. So that was it. So it was a mix of stuff, and eventually, after about 2 years, we got there.
With something like You Raise Me Up, when you finish a song like that, Brendan, had you any indication when you finished that this was going to be the global hit that it was?
Well, there's two answers to that, Fran. One is that every song we write, we think is the best song ever written.
Yes.
So you have to have that kind of optimism, otherwise you give up. So when I finished that, the day I finished the chorus and the first verse, the afternoon I heard the melody from Ralph Loveland and Fionnuala Sherry. And I thought I had something, so I called them and they came over to my house at about midnight. And I had been working with the track of the melody, which was a violin instrumental. So in my strangulated kind of way, I belted out the chorus and the first verse to the two of them. And they looked at each other, and we all looked at each other, and we thought, well, we have something. That was soon quashed when my publisher said, lovely song, it'll never work in America. And separately, Ralph Loveland's publisher sent the same word to him.
Are you serious? Wow.
No, this is like a TV ad, about the Beatles and You Can't Sing and all that. Yes. It would be a huge success. So, and it was a series of random events. Apparently, Roma Downey, the Irish actor, heard the song, probably because of her connection with the North and Brian Kennedy, heard the song and got it to David Foster, who was recording Josh Groban at the time. And they decided to do it, and that was it.
And that culminated in the Super Bowl appearance and singing the song like that.
The next thing I was watching Super Bowl and seeing my song being sung, and all these super athletes with tears in their eyes, and then it went from there on to Oprah's Winfrey's 50th birthday, and pictures of Oprah singing it, and it just kept going, and it keeps going. I mean, there isn't, and I mean this not figuratively, but there isn't a week goes by that I don't get some request in either for foreign language or a performance in a TV show or a movie or something new recording. Literally not a week.
How did you feel when you saw Josh sing that at Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, there was a sense of unreality about it all. That something you scribbled out in isolation at the time in Dublin, has sort of traversed the world and is on one of the biggest shows ever. Like it takes a while to take it in, but then other things started to happen. Mega things like the Paralympics finale and the Olympic Games. The skaters who won gold medals at the Olympic Games skated to "You Raise Me Up" as their encore piece. So I hardly had time to gather breath and be looking backwards. I tended to be looking forward.
It was used as the commemoration for the space shuttle tragedy as well, wasn't it? The Columbia.
Well, that was tied in. It was, and that was tied in with Super Bowl, and that was part of it. That it was a commemoration of the loss of the space shuttle. So that and Super Bowl were all the one kind of thing.
All the one. I was reading the article in Hot Press about you, and some of it is absolutely to a musician like me, it was just fascinating to read your thoughts on things. But I know you're sick to death of speaking about Eurovision, but you know yourself, we have to talk about it. And you make some very interesting observations that I happen to completely agree with in the article. You're saying we shouldn't be looking for a Eurovision song, and neither of your Eurovision successes were Eurovision songs. They were just songs.
That's absolutely right, and obviously at the time I was fascinated by Eurovision. I'd been living in Australia and we started a family there, and then we came back. So I'd missed out on the notion of Eurovision. I didn't realise how big it was, and initially I thought, well, if I could come up with a song, and then I heard Red Hurley singing, and I thought that guy has a fantastic voice, so I bottled up to his door one day and knocked at the door and said, "I have a song for you, Red." And sure, I didn't know he was blue in the face and people knocking at his door. But yeah, Rock and Roll Kids was just a song, and I thought, well, if I could get into the Eurovision, I'd do it differently, just keep it very simple and small, like a conversation in a kitchen. Yeah. But then I had great difficulty getting it into the National Song Contest finals, as the story is well known now, that the song was rejected for the first 2 years I put it in. And I decided to stick with it, and everyone was saying, "Oh, sure, they won't pick it this year. They didn't pick it before." So put it in for the third year, got selected, and then I wanted to keep it small. I didn't want to use the orchestra. I wanted the two guys to make it a conversation in a kitchen, which they did, and it was different from all the other songs, so I think that had something to do with winning it. And then the voice was a different thing altogether. That just came about. And again, I thought, this isn't really a Eurovision song, but it has something to it, and why wouldn't I try? And again, the first year I submitted the voice, it got rejected by the selection committee for the National Song Contest, and then being a stubborn tip man, I sent it in again, and it got picked, and I heard Eimear Quinn singing, and so that was how that happened. And I do think so. At the time, there was stuff around the songs. There were gymnasts and lights and penny farthing bikes and all that, not to the same extent as now. And I wanted to present the songs not in the Eurovision way, but what was true to the song. And I think today, with the right song, presented in the right way, you don't need all the bells and whistles.
And do you think a song like Rock and Roll Kids could win Eurovision as we know it now, Brendan?
I don't know is the answer now. I know it's down the years it's become one of the, certainly in Ireland with audiences, it's become one of their favourite songs, and I'm not sure, but I do think a different kind of song could win, and I have been tempted to consider entering it again, but lightning to strike 3 times would be a big wish. And as somebody said to me, and if you lost, that would be the one you'd be remembered for, not the 2 that won.
I suppose. Even though I have to admit that some of those adjudication panels that I've seen on the Late Late Show, I think the Late Late Show is probably the wrong vehicle for it. But some of the nonsense that's spoken, I'm not sure whether it's the right vehicle for it,
Yeah, well, I've actually, not to be critical behind the backs of RTE, I have written to them. They've sort of asked me now and again for a bit of advice, and I have written to them and said, give the Eurosong back to the people. Have the voting around the country. Sometimes the sound in the small studio isn't that great, and it's more about the people making commentary on the songs than the songs themselves. So I do think it could be approached quite differently. I mean, in Norway, they still have massive live audiences to pick their song. And I think we should do that. And, when the people were picking the songs, they weren't doing too bad when you consider we won 5 years out of 7 or whatever it was.
Isn't that a very good point indeed? Are you still writing all the time, Brendan?
I am. Well, in the interim, I ended up, due to songs, writing a trilogy of novels, which I didn't mean to write at all. But
yes.
The weirdest thing happened when I was made redundant in 1993 at 48, so I became a full-time songwriter by default. And I started writing these songs, and they seemed to be set in Ireland of the previous time during the famine and so on, and this character was coming out of the songs. And I told my publishers at the time, Warner Chappell Music, about it, and they landed me into the boardroom of HarperCollins to tell them the story I had. So I landed in HarperCollins boardroom of a morning, and 10 or 12 very serious-minded and suited people were saying, okay, tell us the story. Sure, I had no story, so I had to tell them a kind of story. And they offered me a book deal.
Wow.
And that came through the voice. So everything is connected in life.
Indeed it is. So are you writing more books as well as songs then at this point?
No, I did 3 books, and I found the books very demanding.
Sure.
It was a 2-year job. The research was great. The writing wasn't fun. So I am writing songs as they come up, and a number of the songs in the album have been written just very recently in the last year or 2. So if the muse visits me, I try and respond.
Well, the muse is certainly visiting. I just love the album. It's called The Arrow of Time. Can I ask you just briefly before I let you go, celebrating 80 this year, have you come to any conclusions? Have you any bit of wisdom you'd like to share with us, Brendan, is there?
God almighty, I'll have Brian Darcy after me again, asking me to give a talk during Easter week, which he did before. I said, what the hell am I going to say? I suppose the thing is, the title of the album indicates, I think, the arrow of time. It keeps going on and on and on, and we only have the time there's in it, so no use worrying about the past or indeed the future. Just get on with it.
Well, that's very good advice. Brendan, real pleasure, and congratulations on the wonderful body of work. I'm a huge fan of yours. Just great songs. Great songs. And lovely to talk to you, Brendan. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks indeed.
Good morning to you. The album is called The Arrow of Time. Let me just give you another taste. This time we made reference to this just a little while ago. This is Brendan's take on You Raise Me Up.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdens be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. There is no life without.
And that's Brendan Graham, and it's from his album The Arrow of Time, and it's his take on You Raise Me Up, and Ralph Loveland there playing the keys on that. It's absolutely gorgeous, love it. All right, the winner of our Carrickdon €50 voucher is Veronica Sweeney from Holy Cross. Well done to you, Veronica. I'm going to have another voucher to give away on the programme tomorrow.
Tipp FM's Tip Today.
With Slattery's Garage, puck on. It's time to change. Test drive the award-winning range of Peugeot hybrids and fully electric vehicles at Slattery's Garage today. See slatterysgarage.ie.
If it matters to you, it matters to us. Call Tip today on 1-800-938-007.
If you're looking for information on how best to access grants and more information on what's available to you if you want to do up a vacant house, well, there's a meeting taking place in Limerick later on this month on the very topic. And Shane Murphy from Ashgrove Renewables joins me now. Good morning to you, Shane.
Good morning, Fran. How are you?
I'm well indeed, and good to talk to you today. I know you're already getting great feedback on this. A lot of interest in this.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, we already have over 250 people signed up. It's always a hot topic, the vacant and derelict grant. There's a lot of confusion around this particular grant. And so, yeah, we would expect to have probably 300 or 400 people at this event. The last one we did was in Sligo, and it was he was fully sold out. Well, it's free, but it was full.
Right. This is happening Monday the 24th at the Radisson Blue in Limerick. What is available to people? I mean, if we have a vacant house on our farm or whatever, what is available to us, Shane?
Yeah, so in the simplest form, the vacant grant is a house that might actually, once it's vacant for 2 years, you're entitled to 50,000. So that might actually be a relatively modern house. It has to be built pre-2008. But if for any reason, say somebody was in a nursing home or somebody was, for whatever reason, the house was unoccupied for 2 years, you can get up to 50,000 to give it a bit of a facelift. So that might be painting, it might be do the kitchen, might be some tiling or something like that. If the house is maybe worse than that, we would consider it maybe derelict. And in that case, it might be structurally unsound, or maybe there's a problem with the roof or something like that. Well, those people are entitled to a further 20,000, provided, obviously, they spend that amount. So the total that you can avail of through the vacant and derelict grant itself is 70,000. And but what a lot of people don't realise is that there's a further 37,000 available for that house to do energy upgrades. So the total that we see there quite often is 106,000, 107,000. But people don't understand how to access both grants simultaneously. Of course, one is maybe problematic enough by itself, but when you add the two of them together, people start getting confused and so on. So that's the purpose of the event, to explain in layman's terms, without the fancy jargon and so on, how people do it.
Well, what about your own financial circumstances? Is that taken into... No, it's not. Okay.
No, it's nothing to do with it. Surprisingly, actually, in this case, they really, really want the houses back in operation and in use. And so, yeah, there's no means testing for either of the grants, whether it's a vacant and derelict, which is available through your council, whether it's a county council or a city council. But equally, from the SEAI, the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland, the grant that they will give you, again, is nothing to do with how well off you are or so on. So no, it doesn't come into it. Now, the one thing that does come into it, maybe Fran there, that is if you do up a house and you get grants for 70,000, if you sell it in 2 years' time, there's a clawback mechanism where they want somewhere all of their money back.
I was wondering about that, what obligations are on you if you are in receipt of the grant. So can you sum those up for me then, Shane?
Yeah. So it's obviously when they're giving you 70,000, they don't want to give 70,000 to, say, Shane Murphy here at Ashgrove, and he just goes around buying and selling houses, buying them, doing them up, taking the 70,000, and then sell it in 6 months and go again and make a business out of it. So what they've done is they've put an obligation on the mortgage or on at least the deeds of the house that if I sell it inside of 5 years, I have to give all of the money back, and then if I sell it between 5 and 10 years, I have to give 50% of the money back. So, and that's it. But of course, keep in mind, if I do up the house and I get all of the grants, of course, the house will be more valuable, so I won't be out of pocket because of it. So a lot of people get emotional over that, having to give the money back, but the reality is, of course, they're financially much better off.
And from your last event, did many people benefit then from what's available to them, Shane?
Yeah, well, of course, they wouldn't. The last time we did that was, I'm going to say, 2 months ago in Sligo. So given, I suppose, that, anybody doing up a vacant and derelict house, that's in a lot of cases is an 8 or a 10 or a 12-month project. So they wouldn't have been able to avail of it already, or certainly they wouldn't be finished their project already. But yeah, about 90% of the people in the room had a house that they were going tackling. And of course, that'll happen over the next 12 months for them. But
right, but you have to invest in the property yourself and then get the money back. Is that the way it works?
That's exactly the way it is. Yeah, you get the money back retrospectively. They're trying to change that, but of course, as you know, like anything in government, these things take time. They know that they would be better off giving the money out, maybe piecemeal, as people were progressing with the project. At the moment, you can't do that. There is another, I suppose, loan available from the major banks. Is called the Home Energy Upgrade Loan Scheme. It's a low interest rate scheme at, I think the lowest rate we've seen is about 3%. So it's really, really good. And that can help maybe fund that gap. That
yes, like a bridging loan from years ago.
Like a bridging loan,
sort of thing,
yeah, correct.
So that is available to people, I presume, if they have proof that they will get the grants.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Okay. Any pitfalls we should be aware of, Shane? Any?
Yeah, there are. So, and we go through all of these. I suppose again, we want, as we say, we do a lot of webinars and seminars, and it's always an unvarnished look at all of them. We don't want to go telling you that they're great, and then you find out after they're not. We take a look at warts and all. So, in the case of the vacant and derelict, I suppose when you apply for the grant and you get the letter of confirmation back, you have 13 months in which to finish your project. And what some people, they make the mistake, they apply for it too early because they're not sure whether they'll get it or not. And then by the time they get the letter back from their local authority, they're actually not prepared to start. They mightn't even have spoken to the bank yet in some cases, and all of a sudden your 13-month clock is ticking. And with many of these houses, they might be building on, I'm going to say, 500 square foot of an extension onto the back or the side. And all of a sudden, I need to line up a mortgage, and then when the mortgage lined up, I need to talk to a few local builders. All the while, your clock is ticking. And, now you can extend it, but they're not obliged to extend it for you. We've never heard of a case where a legitimate case didn't get an extension. I actually did this myself and just finished a house. I got it extended twice because I had problems with foundations and, I suppose, getting tradesmen and all the rest of it. And once they knew that the house was being done up and it was slowly getting finished, they didn't really mind, provided I kept them in the loop. That's probably the big one.
Is it a huge amount of paperwork?
No, it's not. It's like anything. I would compare it to filling out a mortgage application, which a lot of people would be, I suppose, allergic to. But if you're sitting beside a professional when they're doing it, they immediately, I suppose, tell you, you don't need to worry about these 5 things. These 5 over here are important, and they'll help you fill it out. And so I suppose we offer that service where we're sitting beside the person and just saying, look, that's not of interest, skip it, or just write in not applicable or whatever. But it's not, no. I suppose our aim is to make it as simple as possible. I'm sure there are other companies out there doing these as well. But, people are not used to talking about U values or air tightness figures or all of this stuff. They're just not. So our job, and we have 80 people sitting in our office. Many of them are there to assist a homeowner with no background in this stuff to get through to the far end of the project without hiccups.
So we're talking Monday, the 24th of November at the Radisson Blue in Limerick. How do you register? How do you get involved?
Yeah. So you can either contact our office. It's a low-call number. It's 0818 626 626, or the simplest thing might be just go onto our website, ashgrove.ie. That's ASHGROVE, and at the bottom of that page there you'll see upcoming events, and Limerick will be in there. And if a person just signs in there, it's important that they do that, because otherwise we might have a scenario where we don't have enough space on the night. That we were very close to that in the last event, and we'll be turning people away, and that's not good. So yeah, that's it. The other thing they could do is actually we have a free app which goes through these various grants. It's called whatgrant.ie, and they'll get that wherever they download their normal apps. And it goes through. It's little short videos. There's no sales in it. It's just, simple, straightforward, unvarnished information. This grant is useful here, here, and here. It may not be useful if you try to use it over here. And we go through it as we would our mother or our grandmother.
All right, Shane, we wish you well, and thanks very much indeed for coming on with us today. Thank you. Good morning to you.
You're very welcome.
That's Shane Murphy there from Ashgrove Renewables. That's it from me, Ali Produce. Stephen has the Time Tunnel on the lunchtime show. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Look after yourselves, won't you? Bye-bye.
Tipp FM's Tipp Today.
With Slattery's Garage, Puckon. Main Peugeot dealers in the Premier County. And now stocking the full range of the luxury French car brand DS Automobiles. Book your test drive today with Slattery's Garage, Puckon. See slatterysgarage.ie.
It's Paul Taffy.